And, his rhetoric is, of course,
terrifying. His rhetoric is terrifying.
It's terrifying, but I think it's also indicative of what he's willing to do over the course of the next 12 months to make sure that Republicans retain the House.
Sometimes the most revealing moments in politics happen in live conversations, when arguments unfold and the real stakes become clear. If you believe democracy depends on informed voices, hit subscribe and join this community. In this clip, Abby Phillip hosts a CNN panel with Sam Seder, discussing controversial rhetoric from the president directed at members of Congress. In a healthy democracy, disagreement is normal. But when political language moves toward accusations of treason or punishment against opponents, it raises serious questions about democratic boundaries.
Welcome back. When it comes to Donald Trump's rhetoric, America is well rehearsed. There's been a decade of insults, provocations, controversies. You named the line and Trump has pretty much crossed it. But did he go too far this time? 6 Democrats released a video telling service members to disobey illegal orders. The president called them traitors. He said that they could be executed for seditious behavior. He even promoted another message that called for their hangings. One columnist says it's all a distraction from the bad news that he's been facing this week, from Epstein to the economy. Now, while that could most certainly be true, can it be ignored? Should it be ignored? Especially when those lawmakers say that his rhetoric is putting their lives actually in danger. After all, Trump and Republicans get angry when Democrats, liken his behavior to a fascist or a dictator. But calling for the execution of political opponents fits the definition. And it's certainly more extreme than calling someone a descriptor. I mean, do you think that, I hear this sort of like, don't fall for the okie doke, he's just trying to distract you thing from Democrats a lot. Do you think this falls into that category, or is it something else?
Well, I mean, I think, frankly, you've got two sides that are preparing for perhaps what's going to happen over the course of the next year. Donald Trump's approval ratings are dismal. The Republican Party is on their back heels. They got destroyed, wiped out in a way that I haven't seen in 20 years in those elections 2 weeks ago. And so I think there's genuine concern amongst a lot of people in the country that Donald Trump is going to send in troops. He's already got these 500-person rapid response forces that are beginning to train and are going to be able to be deployed by spring. I think there's a lot of people who are concerned about what's going to happen over the course of the next 12 months in the run-up to the midterm elections. And I think the Democrats were trying to get out in front of that, and I think Donald Trump is trying to prevent them from getting out in front of it. And, his rhetoric is, of course,
terrifying.
Extreme.
His rhetoric is terrifying.
It's terrifying, but I think it's also indicative of what he's willing to do over the course of the next 12 months to make sure that Republicans retain the House.
No, but what do you mean? Do you mean in terms of actually following through on the threats, or what?
Well, I think there is a concern that Donald Trump is going to try and prevent the midterm elections from happening.
Okay, you're talking about these are the illegal orders.
Oh, okay, he's trying to. Oh, okay. But let's just talk about just what's happening right now and how we just think that he's planning ahead. What world do we live in when a president gives an idea that, yes, I think execution is okay for my political opponents? What world do we live in when we just ignore that and we don't talk about what that actually means? Because we're used to what he's done. He's numbed us. We're normalizing his behavior. I think that's really dangerous. And I think all of it, yes, it is a distraction. Yes, it is something for us to pay attention to. But how dangerous is it as we come off of an assassination of Charlie Kirk? How dangerous is it to hear him say this? As if someone
the violence in this country is one-sided, and everyone knows it, right?
Before we hear the argument that's about to be made, it helps to pause for a moment and look at the bigger picture. Because sometimes the most important step in understanding political rhetoric is simply defining the terms. Words like stochastic terrorism or fascism get thrown around constantly in modern politics. But what do they actually mean? So take a moment and look at those definitions. Compare them carefully with the rhetoric and behavior being discussed. This isn't about telling you what conclusion to reach. It's about something much more fundamental to democracy, giving citizens the information they need to think critically and judge for themselves. Because an informed public isn't a threat to democracy, it's the whole point of it.
What Trump is
Tell me
talking about
more.
is sedition,
Tell
which
me
is a
more.
law and order process. It goes, by the way, George Washington had generals who did insurrections put to death as well, right? So like, that's our first president that we ever had. Trump is.
Wait, hold on.
Let me just be clear.
Are you suggesting that Trump is right that these Democrats?
No,
should
what
be
I'm
put
saying
to
is
death for
that you
sedition?
guys are making the same mistake that you always do about Trump, which is that you're taking him literally instead of seriously. What he is obviously
I'm sorry,
pointing out.
he's the president of the United States. I think it is warranted to take him quite literally.
But you fall for this game every time.
I'm sorry, he is not not candidate Trump anymore. It's President Trump.
What's the
But what
game?
those
He
Democrats
gets to be
are doing
taken
is
seriously.
absolutely treasonous. It's disloyal. They are causing division within the military. Who's issuing unlawful
How is that
orders?
treasonous?
How is his actions not the same type of normalizing of violent rhetoric that led to the assassinations that we've seen? That's come from DNR. I mean, we've seen.
Which are?
I'm saying I think
Democratic
there's been-
lawmakers in Minnesota
Oh,
were
the ones that were
assassinated.
killed after the Medicaid wasn't expanded to illegal immigrants?
Hold
the
on.
ones that,
Wait, excuse me?
It's just all.
What?
Here's what's happening in this segment and why it matters. Terry Schilling steps onto the stage, a self-proclaimed defender of MAGA rhetoric, but the panel quickly points out what's obvious to anyone paying attention. He's a rookie in this arena. Sam Seder notes that while Schilling is taken literally, he isn't being taken seriously. And that distinction matters. Because here's the reality. The Democrats in the video aren't calling for rebellion or chaos. They are simply stating the law. They remind active service members that they must refuse illegal orders. That's it. That's the framework our democracy depends on. Rule of law, accountability, and the moral courage to say no when an order crosses the line. But Terry Schilling and other MAGA defenders respond as if this simple legal reminder is some act of treason or sedition. What illegal orders? They ask. The answer is clear. The law itself defines it. The message is not rebellious. It's foundational. It's about protecting service members from unlawful actions and defending the integrity of democratic institutions. And then the conversation turns almost absurdly historical. Schilling throws out a reference to George Washington, trying to draw some heroic comparison to Donald Trump. But as the panel points out, this is the first time in these debates that such a misdirection is used seriously. The historical analogy falls flat, leaving only the impression of someone out of their depth. Meanwhile, commentators like Scott Jennings and Ben Ferguson are noted for their craft, the menace behind the smirk. They weave a tapestry of misleading narratives so convincingly that it can seem credible to casual viewers. But here's the Democratic insight. Competence in spinning falsehoods does not make them truth. And in this moment, Schilling is clearly outmatched by those grounded in fact and principle. This exchange isn't just about a single panel or one MAGA operative. It's a reminder that democracy requires citizens and commentators alike to take threats seriously, even when they're dressed up as absurdity, and to recognize the difference between lawful warnings and sensationalist propaganda.
Are you saying that's okay?
No,
What are you-
I'm
what are you
saying they were Democrats that killed them.
No,
this is not
you don't-
Republicans.
it wasn't- you don't know that.
No, that is
I'm sorry.
not
You do
true.
not
This
know
is
that.
sensitive to me because Charlie Kirk was actually a friend.
I understand
And to hear
that,
people
but-
talk about Donald Trump and Republicans
I'm sorry,
inciting
but Terry,
violence, it's
Terry,
just crazy.
The
It's
history
crazy. I'm
of
sorry.
political violence in this country is not a Democrat story. That is factually inaccurate.
It is in the last 5 years.
No, it is in the last 1 year. One, single. Okay, this year, 2025, is the first and only year in the last 20 years where left-wing violence has exceeded right-wing violence. That is a fact. In the last 5 years, it's been 4 years, it's right-wing violence, 1 year left-wing violence. So you can have the aperture only be expanded to the last 10 months, but in the history of this modern political time, that is just not accurate. But even if it were,
He's
if
not allowed to
Donald
say that.
Trump thinks that there is a problem of political violence in this country, why on earth
Would he say
are
that?
comments like these acceptable to
Sedition
you?
is a lawful process. You have to be
Sure.
tried and convicted in the court of
Sure.
law. He's not
But
encouraging
you
people.
actually
He's not saying
believe-
this is Hitler.
But hold on a
These
second.
people are fascists.
You actually believe that Democrats putting out a video saying follow the law is sedition?
Terrible. I think it was terrible.
You think that's sedition?
And look, we've already seen Democrats weaponize
Terry,
the
let me
government.
ask you a question. Do you think that Democrats putting out a video saying this is follow the law, don't follow
Why do you
illegal
need to tell
orders?
people to follow the law?
Do you think that is sedition?
What, everyone in the military knows you need to follow the law.
It is a yes or no question. Is it sedition to tell people to follow the law?
I think Democrats have a long and standing history of undercutting
I'm just
and undermining the
saying you're
Constitution.
not willing to say yes or no because it's very obvious that the answer is no.
Because
if that were the case,
it's a wink and a nod. That's the reason. Their words are perfectly. It's a perfect video, but it's a wink and a nod, and it's all meant to undermine the President of the United States. The military does not have a right to undermine the chief.
Hold on a second. In this country, you do get to undermine the President of the United States.
Not if you're in the military.
No.
He's the commander-in-chief.
If you are a member of Congress, you absolutely, in this country, have a free right to undermine the President of the United States. You know that, right?
The commander-in-chief.
The argument that the Democrats were making in that video, because the fact is the military is not obligated to follow illegal orders.
Who's giving the illegal orders? Where are they? Give me the example of the illegal order.
The Democrats were saying specifically, you're not obligated to follow illegal orders. Period.
Okay, then what illegal orders are they talking about?
Well, they're just
in the future, just in case.
In the future, yeah.
Because you're
just in the case.
Because they're
right
all
now
crazy.
we have a
no
judge
one's
who's
all crazy. No one's going to stop the midterms.
Trump's sending in.
Who just came up with the conspiracy theory that Republicans are going to stop the midterms? That's crazy. That's a conspiracy theory.
All right, we have to leave it there.
Watching Terry Schilling in this segment is like watching someone try to argue in a world they clearly do not understand. He dismisses serious concerns about attempts to influence the midterm elections as crazy conspiracy theories. But the facts tell a much different story. Gerrymandering in Texas, orchestrated by Trump's allies to secure additional congressional seats, and the mid-decade redistricting in California, these are real actions, deliberate maneuvers designed to shift political power and manipulate representation. This is the very machinery of democracy being bent to partisan advantage, and yet Schilling acts as if none of it matters. Then the discussion turns to military authority and the rule of law, where the stakes are far higher than any partisan talking point. Sam Seder and the panel are unambiguous. Active service members are legally required to refuse illegal orders, even if they come from the commander-in-chief. MAGA defenders like Schilling, however, treat this fundamental reminder of the law as if it were some act of treason. And that, right there, is the danger. When loyalty to a person outweighs loyalty to law, to principle, to the nation itself, democracy is imperiled. And the structural implications make this even more alarming. Veteran military leaders with decades of service, expertise, and institutional knowledge are being purged, replaced with loyalists who may lack the judgment or moral courage to question unlawful directives. This is textbook autocracy. Remove oversight, eliminate independent voices, and create conditions where illegal orders are followed without hesitation or challenge. That is how democracies are eroded from within, step by step. The psychological layer here is equally telling. Soldiers seeking independent legal counsel are not being paranoid. They are responding to an intuitive sense that what they are being asked to do is wrong. It is not Democrats on a witch hunt. It is conscientious citizens and service members protecting themselves and the country from unlawful actions. That instinct, that moral awareness, is a sign that democratic principles are alive even under extraordinary pressure. Meanwhile, Abby Phillip and Sam Seder provide a model of measured, calm, fact-based analysis. While Schilling flounders with his just-in-case defenses, the panel deconstructs every claim, exposing the gap between rhetoric and reality. The Democrats' video, the law it cites, and the ethical obligation it communicates are not sedition. They are a clear statement of the law. If an order is illegal, refuse it. This is not partisan hyperbole. It is the very foundation of democratic accountability. This segment is far more than just another cable news confrontation. It is a vivid, unflinching example of the threats democracy faces today. The purges of experienced leadership, the misdirection of facts, the relentless gaslighting, and the creeping normalization of unlawful behavior. It shows us how easily institutions can be bent, how norms can be eroded, and how rhetoric can be weaponized to intimidate, confuse, or silence. But there is also a lesson embedded in all of this. Clarity, courage, adherence to principle, and an unwavering commitment to the truth can illuminate the path forward, even in the darkest of political storms. Citizens who pay attention, commentators who hold power accountable, and leaders who stand firmly on the law. These are the scaffolds that keep democracy intact when it is under assault. They remind us that accountability is not optional, it is essential. So pause, reflect, and absorb this fully. Notice the stark difference between loyalty to an individual and loyalty to the country. Recognize manipulation, deception, and distortion when you see it, but also recognize and support those standing for principle, truth, and justice. And never, ever stop demanding accountability, because defending the rule of law is not just defending a system. It is defending democracy itself, the very foundation of our shared freedom and civic life.